Right. Good evening, all of you. Can you hear me?
Yes, madam.
Right. Okay. So today we are late actually, right? I was waiting more than 10 minutes until the meeting started, right? Hope you also were waiting until the lecture started. Right. Never mind. Several minutes have gone. Right. So directly we'll come into the work then. Okay. Right. I don't know whether still the students are coming in. 17. Yeah. 15, 17 are there. Right. Okay. So let me share my screen. Okay. Right. Well, now during the previous session, I was talking about, actually I was approaching to the discussion on sounds, right? Can you all remember the previous stuff? Those who have come to the lecture now? The previous topics of the discussion, just for you to refresh your memory, I will go back to the previous slides. Actually, I don't intend to discuss anything from the previous points, but I want you to drag your attention to where we are now. Okay, because we are meeting once per week now, right, after 7 days. So you have to keep in touch with what we have been discussing so far, right? So I started the discussion on this one, this area. This is the major area where the consonants and vowels are expected to be discussed in detail. And as an approach to that discussion on sounds, we started to talk about the spoken variety, the spoken form and the written form of any language, right? So the spoken versus the written form, that is what actually I discussed during the previous session. So I was talking about the differences between spoken and written forms of language. Also paying attention to the advantages and disadvantages and these graphemes, that means English spellings, right? And as I told to you, advantages of speech overwriting and advantages of writing our speech. Okay, right. So that is what we discussed in this second major lesson. And now today we are coming straight to the core of the lesson, in the sense the most important area where we are supposed to talk about the production of speech sounds. Right? Okay. So by now, I hope you all have some understanding about, if I use the key terms, phonetics and phonology, especially phonetics. May I know whether you are familiar with the term? Of course, I myself have introduced the term phonetics to you, right? But more than that, do you know anything about the study area? What kind of a field do we identify as, or do we call as phonetics, and what is happening there? Like that? Anybody? Either yes or no kind of answer would be fine. I don't want you to explain in detail, right?
Yes, madam.
Sumaya, yeah, you know. And what about the others? Regarding the field of phonetics, what is happening in phonetics? Anybody who can answer to that question? Yeah, Sapana?
Production of sound,
Yeah, that is
pronunciation.
in pronunciation. Okay, right. So, what else do you know? Actually, phonetics is studying the production of sounds, right? Correct. But what else do you think would come to this study area? What are we going to talk there in phonetics? Any idea? Other than the definition of the term? No, no idea. If you know anything, you are free to talk. Right. Okay. So I hope if you have done a diploma, right, HNDE, then definitely you must have covered uh, the area on phonetics, especially phonetics and a little bit on phonology. In this module, right now, this module, don't think that we are going to discuss phonetics and phonology in very detail. Not in very detail. Here, I would be touching the basics of phonetics actually. Okay. So those who are already familiar with the area on phonetics, they can refresh their memory. And also those who have not met this area before, they can get the basic knowledge. Okay, right. Because now in this module, as I explained in the very first day, as I introduced the contents, you know, we are going to touch almost all the levels of linguistic analysis, not only phonetics and phonology. We are going to talk about morphology and syntax, semantics, all these things in detail. So therefore, we are not going into the depth in the sense, not in very detail, right? But still, you have to have a very sound knowledge about what is happening in phonetics. Now, actually, now you can see, we don't have the term phonetics here. No need, right? Instead, you have to have a kind of understanding, clear idea about the production of speech sounds. That is our topic. Okay, our topic is production. So how the speech sounds we produce, right? The speech sounds we use are produced physically. The physical aspect of the production of speech sound. So that is the area focused in this lesson as well as in the coming sections, right? Okay, so here, you can see I have sent this note to you earlier, so you must have some idea about what this particular area covers, which you can see on screen. When we talk about the production of speech sounds, right now, you know, we need to have the airstream. The basis of any speech sound is an airstream, right? Airstream means not the air we are just talking about, right? It is the airstream that is produced inside our lungs, inside our body primarily, and in detail, specifically to talk about it, inside the lungs. Now, we are not producing airstreams to talk, no, right? You need to pay your attention to this incident practically, right? We human beings are living first, right? We are breathing to live. You know that, right? Without breathing, we can't live. So how do we breathe then? We inhale air and we exhale air. Inhalation and exhalation. That is the cycle, right? As a cycle, it takes place. And that is how, of course, we survive, right? We live. That is the basic purpose of breathing. Okay? So, other than this basic purpose, we use breathing to produce sounds, to produce speech sounds. Actually, there is a clear idea why I am telling to produce speech sounds, because now we human beings can produce so many sounds, right? You know that. Even with our fingers, we can produce some sounds and we can make some clicks like that. Okay. So we can produce a lot of sounds. But here we talk about the production of human speech sounds. Human speech sounds means the sounds we human beings are producing for the purpose of communication by way of using oral symbols, right? So then that is why we have the term speech, the word speech here. So in that regard, if we come back to the airstream, right? I was talking about breathing. So apart from the primary purpose of breathing, that is to live, right? Apart from that purpose, we breathe to produce speech sounds in order to communicate, right? In order to pass some messages to our listeners. So then how do we use breathing to produce speech sounds? When we say breathing, there are two parts, right? Inhalation and exhalation. So here, when we talk about the production of speech sounds, we use the exhalation. Inhalation means we take air in, right? We take air inside our body, and exhalation, we put air out of the body. So when we put air out while we are exhaling or putting the air out of the body, right, we produce speech sound. So you should know, although I mean, even if we do not have to talk about these things like this, you know, practically that is what is happening. So in this discussion, what we do is to pay our attention to what is automatically happening, right? We don't think and do these things. They happen automatically. So when we exhale air, at the same time, we produce speech sounds. So you can try yourselves, okay? You just see, when do you speak? Speaking means producing speech sounds, right? So can you speak while you are inhaling? Can? During, during the inhalation phase, we can't speak. I mean, it's biologically not possible even if we try, right? When we inhale, we can't speak. We speak when we exhale air, when we put the air out of our body. So then you have to understand the basis of any speech sound is an airstream. And this airstream is none other than the airstream that we exhale from our body during our breathing. Okay? That is the airstream. Okay, so we'll come back to this section now. Yeah, so when we talk about the production of speech sounds in common, many languages, even including the English language, we talk about the use of egressive pulmonic system, right? Egressive pulmonic system to generate speech sounds. Actually, this airstream, which I earlier introduced to you as the exhaled airstream, that is technically called in the area called phonetics, right? Egressive pulmonic airstream. Okay, that is called egressive pulmonic airstream, and there are reasons why we have to identify or label the airstream like that. Egressive, you have this, refers to the fact that sound is produced when air is exiting, not entering the lungs, right? Okay, so you know, I told you we use the exhaled airstream. Exhaled means airstream goes out of the lungs. It goes out of the lungs. That airstream exits the lungs. That is why the name egressive. And not only the lungs, right? It exits the lungs, it comes upwards, enters the oral cavity, and finally goes out of the body, either through mouth, basically, or through the nose. So finally it goes out of the body, right? So the name egressive is given because of that. And the other term, pulmonic, is given to this airstream because this airstream is generated within the lungs. The power source, right, is the lungs. Or in other words, simply you can understand the airstream which we use to produce sounds is produced or is originated inside the lungs. And that is why we have the name pulmonic, aggressive pulmonic airstream. Okay, right. So in speaking, air is expelled from the lungs by a downward movement of the ribs and upward movement of the diaphragm. Now, this is an explanation in relation to the breathing mechanism, right? As I told to you, when we inhale air as well as exhale air, our rib cage, chest, diaphragm, they function differently. Okay, so your airstream, whatever, right? Whoever the airstream does not behave the same during the inhalation phase as well as during the exhalation phase. Our the physical, the biological organs behave or function different ways. Right, that's the idea given here, talking about the rib cage and the diaphragm. But I'm not going to talk more about that aspect because I want you to pay your attention to the airstream, right? The behavior of the airstream, right? The air travels up the bronchial tubes, that means the respiratory tubes, to the trachea or windpipe. These keywords are given in red color, right? So that you have to pay additional attention to these keywords. If you are going to talk about the production of speech sounds anywhere, I mean, right, in your answers, evaluations, you will have to use these key terms, right? Okay, so trachea or windpipe, and through the larynx or Adam's apple. Okay, I'll just read this part. The larynx contains a valve which functions to close off the trachea while you are eating. Fine. This valve has been adapted for the purposes of speech, and that is called vocal cords, right? Wait. The vocal cords are too much. Okay, right? That's about the vocal cords. Now I will go down here. Okay. You might not have this diagram, but still you are familiar, I hope, right? With this kind of diagrams. So I was talking about the airstream, right? The direction of the airstream. So somewhere down at the lungs, the airstream is produced during the exhalation of air. This airstream quits or goes out of the lungs and comes upwards, right? Comes upwards in this direction, you can find through the larynx. The very first speech organ it meets is the larynx. So it passes through the larynx. And you can find inside the larynx, the vocal cords are located, right? The vocal cords are situated. And this tube, in this diagram, you don't find the name. It is not named, but this tube is called trachea, right? This tube, trachea or windpipe. And there's another tube here, this one. It doesn't play any role in the speech sound production. It is the tube that goes directly down to our stomach, right? Which is called esophagus, right? Okay, so we are talking about the windpipe. So along with the windpipe or trachea, the airstream comes upwards and it enters the larynx. Inside the larynx, we have the vocal cords, right? So while the airstream passes through the vocal cords, the vocal cords vibrate and it comes up, enters pharyngeal area, and then it comes upwards and enters either the oral cavity or nasal cavity, right? And if it enters the oral cavity, it goes out of the body through the mouth. And if it enters the nasal cavity, it goes out of the body through the nose. Right. This is how This is the direction of the airstream whenever we produce speech sounds. Okay, right. So then you should have an understanding about the speech organs that are passed by this airstream, as well as the speech organs that shape, okay, that shape the airstream into the production of different speech sounds, right? Okay, and then now this is something about the larynx, right? What happens inside the larynx? So as I told to you, when the airstream passes through the larynx, sometimes these, most of the time, right? Almost all of the time, these vocal cords vibrate. Sometimes when we talk about the production of a limited number of sounds, the vocal cords do not vibrate. Otherwise, all the time vocal cords vibrate. But this degree of vibration differs. When we produce certain sounds, vocal cords are highly vibrating. When we produce certain other sounds, vocal cords are not that much vibrating, not that much a faster rate. Okay, right. I am going to talk about the incident, what is happening inside the larynx in a couple of minutes. So therefore, I do not want to discuss, or I mean, discuss in detail this section. This is covering what's happening inside the larynx, right? So when you talk about the larynx, to think about the keywords, vocal cords and glottis. Glottis is the space that you find in between the vocal cords. Okay, so when the vocal cords are touched, there is no space, which means we say glottis is closed. But when the vocal cords are tight, right, they are kept apart, there is a space in between the vocal cords, and that is, in such a situation, we say glottis is open. Okay, so glottis is an equally important term as the vocal cords when you talk about the function of the larynx, right? Okay, so after the larynx, air continues past the larynx into the pharynx. The next area, pharynx, you can see it in this diagram. So in this area, right, which is called pharynx, or we call it pharyngeal area, the airstream is further vibrating. Okay, we don't use the word vibrating. There we use the term resonating, right? We say resonance is happening. So the airstream is resonating. It's a kind of vibrating, right? So adding further qualities to the airstream. So that is how we shape our voice also. Okay, different voices are shaped by the resonations that are happening in the airstream in pharynx, right? Okay, then after the pharynx area, pharyngeal area, the air moves into the vocal tract. So basically it enters the vocal tract, means the oral tract, right? So there you find mostly the oral cavity, and sometimes this airstream can enter the nasal cavity as well, right? So inside the oral cavity, actually oral cavity is very much important because it is inside the oral cavity where all the speech organs are located except for the larynx, right? So there you have articulators. Articulators is another term to talk about the speech organs, right? So all the speech organs are located inside the oral cavity, just like the lips, palate, tongue, etc. Right? And when you talk about the articulators or speech organs, there are two types, active articulators and passive articulators. Active articulators means the speech organs that are moving, right? Moving and touching another whatever articulator. And passive articulators are not moving, they are fixed, stationary, in the sense they are fixed. So when we produce speech sounds, what happens is that another active articulator comes and touches the passive articulator. Or active articulator makes contact with the passive articulator, right? Okay, that is the incident. So we will look at some more articulators in the diagram. So that is a basic incident, then, right? But you should understand articulators, this is a wide area because there are many articulators and there are different functions each articulator is performing. And also as a result, there are different sounds produced at each articulator. So this is a wide area. You need to have an overall understanding about the articulators or speech organs inside the vocal tract, especially inside the oral cavity, right? Okay, so here in this diagram, you can find those articulators. Yeah, we'll talk about the active articulators and passive articulators after we look at these basic articulators. So in this diagram, you can find few start from the end actually, right? End in the sense you put your airstream out of the body through mouth or nose, right? So if you put it out through mouth, then lips are here. Both upper lip and the lower lip. And after that, you have teeth, upper teeth and lower teeth. So whenever you are talking about lips and teeth, you need to be specific, right? Upper lip and lower lip, upper teeth and lower teeth. Because in phonetics, in the speech sound production discussion, upper teeth and lower teeth are not equally important. Similarly, upper lips and lower lips are not equally important because sometimes there are certain sounds that are produced only with the use of the lower lip. So upper lip is not that important. Same thing happens when you talk about the teeth, right? When you talk about the lower teeth and upper teeth, more than the lower teeth, upper teeth is important in the speech sound production. So therefore, always specify whether it is upper or lower when you talk about lips and teeth, right? Regarding the articulators. And after that, when you talk about this upper side, you have when you talk about the oral cavity, right? In the oral cavity, you have the alveolar ridge, and that is, okay. Alveolar ridge is marked. It is somewhere here, of course. Okay. Alveolar ridge is here. That is soon after the upper teeth. Soon after the upper teeth, you don't find, of course, you can't see your alveolar ridge, but you can still feel it, right? With your tongue. When you say L, the sound L, like in lake, you can say or produce the sound L, your tip of the tongue rises and touches the alveolar ridge. So that is where alveolar ridge is situated, right? Okay. And after that, soon after the alveolar ridge, you have the hard palate, the hard area inside the mouth. We call it roof of the mouth also, right? You can feel it's quite hard, right? And after the hard area, there is the soft area. And hard area is called hard palate and the soft area is called velum or soft palate, this area. So this soft area you find before the uvula, right? After soft area, you will find this uvula, the small dangling thing. Uvula. We call it uvula. In English and Sinhala, of course, we don't use uvula very much for speech sound productions. Okay. Do you think you have any sound? Or do you produce any sound using uvula? Either in Sinhala or Tamil? Any idea? Uvula? Your tongue touches the uvula and produce any sound, that kind of thing. If you have any idea, you can contribute, right? But that is not very common in our languages, right? Quite rare. But there are languages in the world where the uvula is used in the speech sound production, other than the languages we are using, right? So that is uvula, this small dangling thing. And sorry, this bottom side, tip. We need to talk about the tongue, right? It starts with the tip of the tongue. Actually, there are 5 parts in the tongue in this diagram. One part is missing. 5 parts are there, starting with the tip of the tongue. So, you know, the tip, right? When you put your tongue out, your friends will see the tip, basically the tip part, right? And after the tip, actually soon after the tip of the tongue, this area, if you identify this as the tip, right? This area is called blade of the tongue. Blade. B-L-A-D, blade of the tongue, right? And after that, you have front of the tongue, the central part. That is called front, okay? Front of the tongue. And after the front area or the central area, you have back of the tongue. And somewhere down here, root of the tongue, right? Root area, right? So in the speech sound production, you use all the 4 areas: tip, blade, front, and back. Not the root. Root is not normally used, right? Okay. So that is about the tongue there, right? Okay, I think I was talking about all the articulators here. Did I miss anything? You have any problem with this one? Epiglottis? This is called epiglottis. Anybody has any idea how we use epiglottis? Yeah, free to talk. Yes? Yeah. Anybody can talk. I highly appreciate if you can contribute to the discussion, of course. Today, so far, you have been silent, right? Yes. I was asking whether you have any idea regarding this epiglottis or any other speech organ or articulator which I missed, which you know, but I missed. Yeah.
Madam,
Hmm.
normally epiglottis work when we are eating a food.
Hmm.
I think it close the nasal way. Is it correct?
Nasal.
Yeah.
Nasal. Not
Yeah.
nasal. Mufrasa, right? Not nasal, but
Uh-huh.
it closes.
Closes. Yeah, I know something, but I can't remember.
Okay, okay. Right. Anyhow, your action verb is correct, Mufrasa.
Okay, madam.
It closes.
Yeah.
What? That's it. You have to locate what. Yeah. Anyway, thanks for the response. Any other one who would like to talk? You don't have any idea. The others don't have any idea about the epiglottis. That is not because you don't have the epiglottis, right? All of you have this, but we don't use this for speech sound production. That is the major point I wanted to tell you, right? Although epiglottis, this kind of an organ is available here, in the speech sound production, we don't use it. But biologically, it is very, very important. Biologically, because when we eat, when we swallow food, okay, now the food, wait. Everything I am doing in red. Right. Okay, so when we eat, food is coming here now, right? We have to eat also using the mouth. right? Which means the oral cavity. So food is coming in this way. The green circles, I hope you can find, right? Okay, so food is coming like this. Then when food comes to this point, right? To this point, what will happen? There is a risk at entering food this way, right? This way means this windpipe or trachea, which I have marked here, okay? So if the food enters trachea, what will happen is that they will go to the lungs. So this epiglottis is there to block it, right? So when we are eating simply, this epiglottis is blocking the trachea or windpipe like this. In this diagram, the windpipe is raised so that there is this entrance is open to the windpipe down to the lungs. But when we are eating, this the epiglottis blocks the entrance to the lungs or to the windpipe. It blocks. So that what will happen? This food will automatically enter the other channel. Other channel is called esophagus. So that goes down to our stomach. Okay, so that is the role of epiglottis. So now there are people who get food going in the windpipe while they are eating. Have you seen? So then we have to tap at their back, right? In what do we say? Pitoguriana or something we say, right? So that happens when the food enters the windpipe, right? So epiglottis is there to block the windpipe. I think Mufrasa, now you got the point, right?
Yes, madam.
Right. So, but the thing is, this we'll come back to our discussion here. We were talking about the production of speech sounds. Then epiglottis doesn't have anything to do regarding the speech sound production. Okay, it is there to perform a very important biological requirement only. So understand that. And there is another confusion may create, right? Because this is epiglottis and there is glottis. Did you see this term? Glottis and epiglottis. These two are two different things, right? And now you know about epiglottis, and glottis is something which doesn't have anything to do with epiglottis, right? Glottis is there inside the larynx. And as I earlier told to you, glottis is a space in between the vocal cords. That's all. So therefore, have some clear understanding and be with a kind of strong memory regarding these articulators. They may be confusing if you do not pay your attention to them clearly, right? Okay. And then here you have something about active and passive articulators. Yeah, active and passive. So we'll go up to the diagram. I told you active articulators are the ones that move and touch with passive articulators. So when we are naturally speaking, right? When we are using any language and when you are talking or producing speech sounds, certain articulators are only moving. Whereas some other articulators, they don't move. Now, by looking at this diagram, can you pick the active articulators? Of course, the note is there, right? I have already sent the note also. Never mind. Just look at this diagram and try to find out the articulators that are moving in speech sound production. Can you find some? If you can identify some and share your findings with us, that's better. Are they the lips or teeth or any part of the tongue? What? Active articulators. Looking at this diagram,
The lower lip and the tongue.
the lower lip, and you mean all the parts of the tongue?
Yes.
Hmm. Okay, right, good. So what about the passive articulators then? That means the articulators that are not moving anywhere, they remain fixed. What can be them then? Passive.
Lower lip.
Earlier also you said lower lip, right? Active articulator as an active articulator.
Upper teeth.
What? Which one?
Upper teeth, ma'am.
Upper teeth. Ah,
Teeth. Teeth. Upper teeth.
okay. Upper teeth. And what else? When you look at the speech organs or articulators here marked in this diagram, what are passive? There are more passive articulators that are not moving, of course. Sorry. Did you find any other? Yeah.
Soft palate.
Soft palate,
Alveolar ridge.
alveolar ridge. Anything else left?
Hard palate.
Hard palate. Okay, right. So good at it. So you find here, right? The tongue. 1, 2, 3. Okay, right. Now you have here front consisting of the tip or apex and the blade or lamina, and the back or dorsum and the root. So you, in this note, you have 3 major divisions of the tongue, but in the diagram I gave you in detail 5 divisions, right? According to the note, you have the front and the back and the root. So front means tip and the blade. Tip of the tongue and the blade, right? Or plus the middle part of the tongue. And dorsum. Dorsum is called the back or dorsum, and the root. So these are the 3 divisions, major divisions of the tongue. And when you talk about the tongue is the most important active articulator, right? So as you have correctly identified. Because all the parts of the tongue, of course, we are not talking about root as an important part here in the speech production, and except for the root, the first and second major divisions of the tongue are very important as active articulators. So tongue is useful to modify the shape of the cavity, acts as a valve by touching parts of the mouth to stop the flow of air, and is shaped in various ways to direct the flow of air, right? So tongue is a very, very important speech organ. Be the sound, consonant sound or vowel sound, whatever, tongue plays a major role, right? So when we talk about consonant and vowel sound productions in the coming sessions, you will understand how tongue functions. So for the moment, remember it's an active articulator. And the other active articulator is the lower lip. So we have pair of lips, right? Upper and lower. But when we talk about the speech sound production, it is not mostly the upper lip, right? Both lips are important. There are sounds which we produce by using both lips, like per, b, m. You can't say these sounds without both lips, right? That is there. But when we talk about this active role, it is always with the lower lip, right? Lower lip is moving and touching the placed against the sometimes upper teeth or together with the upper lip. So always lower lip is active other than the or rather than the upper lip, right? Okay. So can just think about the sounds that are produced with the lower lip and upper teeth. Like this, lower lip and upper teeth. Like the sounds like f, and v. And so there you can find the active articulator is lower lip. When you say f, v, upper teeth is there, passive articulator, and active articulator is lower lip. And when you think about the sounds like oo, o, lower lip together with the upper lip functions to form or to give the shape of these sounds, right? So lower lip is the other one. These two are very important. Talking about the active category and passive category, you find the teeth, both upper teeth and lower teeth, right? That is one passive articulator. The other one, the roof of the mouth. Okay, roof of the mouth, it includes here several parts, right? One part is actually roof of the mouth is given to the whole area inside the mouth, the whole top area. But there you find the alveolar ridge is there, right? And the hard palate is there. And the soft palate is there. Finally, alveolar is there. So all these sections are considered to be passive articulators because they don't go anywhere, right? They don't go anywhere. Alveolar ridge, hard palate, soft palate, and the alveolar. And the third one, the pharynx. Pharynx or back of the throat. But we are not very much used to these sounds, pharyngeal sounds. Right? But some languages have pharyngeal sounds. So in that respect, we identify pharynx to be another passive articulator. Okay, right. So basically teeth and the roof, upper part of the mouth. But telling upper part of the mouth is not enough, right? It's not sufficient. You have to go with the these underlying parts there regarding the roof of the mouth. 1, 2, 3, 4, all these 4 parts there. They are passive articulators. So understand the difference between active and passive articulators. When you talk about the speech organs in speech sound production, right? Okay. Well, so when we talk about the production of sounds, I so far gave you a basic intro. Okay, but you need to have some more idea about the production of particular sounds, production of particular types of sounds, particular types. So we have one classification of the sounds as oral sounds and nasal sounds. Oral or nasal. This difference is available only with the consonants, right? Consonant sounds. We have oral consonants and nasal consonants. But when we talk about the vowels, almost all, right? All the vowels are oral. We don't have nasal. By origin, we don't have nasal vowels. But by origin, there are nasal consonants as well as oral consonants. So you need to be clear with the difference between oral and nasal sound productions, right? So now this time also, I would like to ask from any one of you, anybody, right? Do you have any single idea regarding the difference between these two types, oral sound and nasal sound? You don't have to read the note here, okay? I mean, just don't think about anything given in the note. Just simply think, oh, okay, what can be the oral sound? What can be an oral sound? What can be a nasal sound like that? Any idea? Is it possible for any one of you to talk about the difference? Because oral nasal words are not very unfamiliar words, no? Yeah. Anybody? Okay, let me ask the question like this then. Which sound are you producing mostly? Oral or nasal? Mostly
Oral.
oral. Fine. Then what about the nasal sounds? What is the difference then? You don't have to come up with a very long explanation, right? What is the basic difference between these two then? If you know, if you say that you mostly produce oral sounds, which means you know some idea, you have some idea.
The air is sent through the mouth are called oral sound,
Yeah.
and the air is sent through the nose are called nasal sound.
Nasal sounds, right? So the air stream goes out of the body through the mouth, then that air stream produces oral sounds. And if the air stream is pushed out of the body through the nose, then we are producing nasal sound. So that is how we have oral nasal difference. But it is actually when we talk about the production of oral and nasal sounds, there is a deciding factor. There is a special articulator that decides whether a sound is going to be oral sound or nasal sound. A particular articulator is there. Did you find that articulator? The deciding factor? It is this. The soft palate, or we call it velum, right? It is called velum. So you remember, I hope, this velum, it's here now, right? This is the velum. Actually, this is the area of velum. Then when we produce sounds, when we talk, right? When we produce speech sounds, sometimes this velum lies like this, as you can see in this picture. So when the velum is like this, you can find even the uvula is also down, right? Uvula is also down. So you can find a space. There is a space which creates a kind of entrance to the nasal cavity. So as there is a space, right, this air stream comes up and it can easily enter the nasal cavity. Then after it enters the nasal cavity, it flows through the nasal cavity, goes out of the body through nose. Right. But some other situations, this velum is not lowered like this. It is raised. Okay. It is raised. When it is raised in this manner, when the velum is raised like this, there is no space here. Okay, there is no space, and the entrance to the nasal cavity is blocked. So air stream can't enter the nasal cavity. It has to enter the oral cavity. Automatically, it enters the oral cavity, flows through the oral cavity, and goes out through mouth, producing oral sounds. So then I hope you understand why I said velum is the deciding factor, the articulator that decides whether a sound is going to be oral sound or nasal sound. So that explanation you can find here, right? If it is raised, if the velum is raised against the back of the pharynx, that is called velic closure, right? These are technical terms. Better be familiar with this. Blocking the entrance to the nasal passageway, then air passes out only through the oral cavity. And the result is known as an oral sound. So you have the images also. 2.1, 2.1a, this one. This is the situation, right? Now you can clearly see the how the velum is located here, right? In A, picture A, velum is raised, see? So that airstream will enter the oral cavity, producing oral sounds. Okay, right. And if the velum, now the other way around, can happen if the velum is lowered, right? This is raised and this is lowered, and that is called velic opening also. Velic opening. Velic means it comes from the term velum, okay? And here velum blocks the nasal passage, entrance to the nasal passage. So therefore, this incident is called velic closure. Closure is kind of blocking, right? Ending, blocking. So this is velic closure. And in this incident, now in the second picture B, there you find velum is lowered and velic opening. Velic opening means there is this space created, opening created, and airstream can enter the nasal cavity. Okay. Finally, going out of the nose, producing nasal sounds. Okay, right. Air can pass out through the other cavity, that is the nose, right? And if air passes out of the nose exclusively, the nasal sound is produced. If air passes out of both the nose and the mouth, the nasalized sound is also produced, right? Okay, so you must have experience, I think, with this incident. Nasalization, right? What do you know about nasalization? Nasalization is actually making a sound nasal. Now, by origin, you just think about the consonant sounds, right? By origin, there are some consonants that are nasal, which means definitely when we produce those nasal consonants, the airstream enters the nasal cavity, which means there is velic opening, right? There is velic opening. So always airstream enters the nasal cavity, flows through it and goes out through the nose. But the most of the consonant sounds are the other way around, right? They are oral sounds. So can you please now give me some examples for oral and nasal? Better to give examples for nasal sounds because we don't have many nasal sounds. Most of the sounds are oral. Just think about the consonants. That's enough, right? Because when we talk about the vowels, all of the vowels are oral, right? The airstream flows through the oral cavity. The velic closure is there. But velic opening is there in the production of some consonants. So producing nasal sounds. Can you think of some examples?
Met.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Ne,
Okay. Ma. I will write the phonetic script in phonetic script.
Ne.
Okay. Ma, na,
Ne.
ya, and what else? There are two here. Ma, na. In International Phonetic Alphabet, you find another sound also.
Ing.
Yes, that is in the sense nga.
Yeah.
This one, nga. Like in ink, nothing, you have that sound. And there's another nasal consonant. There's a fourth example which is familiar to us, right? Which you don't find in IPA anyway, but we use it. What is that? There's a fourth example. Can any one of you remember any other oral consonant?
Yeah.
Yes, correct. This one. This is how we write it using the phonetic script. Nya. That is nya. Cat's nya. Okay. So we have a diacritic mark like this at the top of this symbol. So these four sounds are by origin nasal consonants. So whenever we produce these sounds, always our airstream enters the nasal cavity, right? We don't have any other way of producing these. Like you can just try to block your nose and produce these sounds. Any of these sounds you can't produce by blocking your nose. You will produce some other different sound, right? Okay. And other than these four, all the other sounds, all the other consonant sounds are oral. Like p, t, ch, j, k, d, l, s, n, not n, any other, right? Except for these four, all the other consonants are oral consonants, right? So that's it. And I was talking about nasalization here, right? Nasalization is another incident. There, of course, we deliberately make a sound nasal, which means deliberately we push the airstream enter the nasal cavity, flows through the nasal cavity and goes out of the body through nose. Deliberately means by purpose or without purpose sometimes. For example, when we feel ill, right? When you are suffering from cold, mostly our voice becomes kind of nasal, right? Nasalized. Our sounds become nasalized, especially when you are suffering from cold or something due to some illnesses. So that is nasalization. And other than that, by purpose also we nasalize some sounds. Some singers are doing that. Not only the singers, even when you are naturally talking, you must have heard some people are nasalizing, right? Their sound. So that is in nasalization, what happens is that this airflow, right? This airstream flows through the nasal cavity as well as through the oral cavity, both, in producing nasalized consonants. Both cavities are used. But when we think about the production of nasal sounds like ma, na, nya, nga, the airstream the whole airstream enters the nasal cavity, not a part. Right? Okay. So hope you got some idea about the production of oral and nasal sounds. Remember, this velum, the role of velum is the most important factor here in this classification, right? Okay, let's go to the next classification. Production of voiced and voiceless sounds. Now, this is also applicable to the consonant sounds, right? To the consonant sounds because, you know, all the vowel sounds are, what do you think, voiced or voiceless? As you know, all the vowel sounds are voiced sounds or voiceless sounds. Only one category, not both. Whereas consonants are both. Yeah? Yes, Muna, have
Voice
any
are
idea?
voiced, no?
All the vowels are voiced, right? Whereas some consonants are voiced, some are voiceless. So this deviation is relevant to the consonant sounds only then. Remember that. Okay, so that is another property of consonants, being voiced or voiceless. Right. So what do you mean by voiced and voiceless? We give a phonetic term. We can explain this incident phonetically using the term phonation. Right? Phonation. Phonation means voicing. Voicing a sound. So if a sound is voiced, we call it voiced sound. And if a sound is not voiced, we call it voiceless sound. Right? So practically we can feel whether a consonant is voiced or voiceless, practically in the sense casually also, by simply touching our throat with the hand. While we are talking, you can touch your throat with your hand and feel vibration. If you, now the thing is, always we feel a vibration, right? Always we feel vibration when we are talking. But sometimes we feel a big vibration, right? It's a considerable vibration. Some other times we don't feel that much of a big vibration. Okay, so what do you mean by this vibration? Big or, I mean, fast vibration or slow vibration? What is happening is that inside our throat, we have the larynx, and inside the larynx, vocal cords are there, right? And it is actually the vibrations of these vocal cords that we feel with our hand, right? So all the time when we are talking, our vocal cords are vibrating. Okay, all the time, but except for one or two incidents, actually I should tell it to you. Like in the first point, look at this first point. When the vocal cords are widely separated and fairly stretched, then we don't add any voice, right? No voice is produced. Because all the time vocal cords are not tightly or lightly touched. No, sometimes they are widely apart, right? Separated. And that incident is called open glottis, right? Open glottis, where we produce voiceless sounds. You have another set of figures here, 2.2a. If you have a hard copy, you can have a look at it. 2.2, this is A. What is happening here? You can find the vocal cords. These are the vocal cords, right? And the thyroid cartilage, it's not very much, anyway, relevant to the discussion. Arytenoid cartilages are here, right? So now you can find the arytenoid cartilages are apart. And as a result, the vocal cords are also not touching, right? They are kept apart. And as a result, you can find the space here. Glottis. You can find open glottis. Okay. Open glottis can be identified in such a function of the vocal cords where they are kept apart. Right. And in other situation like B here, what about this situation? The vocal cords are touching, right? Sorry. See, the vocal cords set in vibration means the vocal cords are very much close to each other. And as a result, what will happen? The space is not available, right? You don't find a considerable space for the airstream to move through. Then what will happen? As a result, anyhow the airstream is moving through this now. So as a result, these vocal cords are vibrating. These are vibrating. So this is the vibration you feel a lot when you touch your throat with the hand, right? Okay. So we call this voicing, right? The sound produced in that function of in that situation of the vocal cords are called, whatever the sounds, they are called voiced sounds. So these are the explanations, you can go through them, right? Okay. And this is about the vibration of the vocal cords in relation to male and female actually, right? This factor. Now, what do you think? Women's vocal cords or men's vocal cords are vibrating a lot?
Women's one.
Yeah, that is how the women's have this beautiful voice. their vocal cords are vibrating at a fast rate than males. Vibrating more rapidly, right? More rapidly, faster rate. Normally in between 190 and 250 hertz. Hertz is the unit which is used to measure the rate of vibration, right? Times per second, like it is equal to CPS, circles per second, like that, right? Times per second. While men's larger vocal cords vibrate in between 100 to 150 hertz. Comparatively, women's vocal cords are smaller than men's vocal cords, right? Men's vocal cords are larger, so they do not vibrate as fast as women's vocal cords. This is one reason for the difference between the male-female voices. Okay, the rate of vibration. Yeah. When the vocal cords are vibrating, you can feel a vibration and hear a buzzing kind of effect is produced due to the vibration here, right? Okay, so these are the relevant images and see. Okay, we'll go to sleep. See, they are a closed glottis. We'll look at this. Closed glottis occurs when the vocal cords are brought completely together once and the airstream is interrupted. Closed. This produces a speech sound we will consider later, called later, right? It is not given here. A glottal stop. We are talking about this C, right? Incident C or situation C, where the vocal cords are completely touching, but still there is a small space you can find it, right? But mostly rather than situation B, in situation C, the vocal cords are completely touched. So then what will happen? How do we produce sounds then? It's like whispering, okay? Now, you know, murmuring or whispering to somebody, that sound effect is created in situation C, where glottal stop is produced. We call it phonetically glottal stop. Whispering involves bringing the vocal cords close together, as I told to you, right, in situation C, keeping them fairly taut but not vibrating, Remember, in glottal stop, these vocal cords are not vibrating, right? Air is restricted through a small triangular passage between the adenoid cartilages, and this produces a hissing sound. Usually we whisper using a kind of hissing sound, right? Hissing sound is like shh, that kind of a sound. So you don't associate any vibration there. Only hissing sound is produced. And see the difference among A, B, C here. Okay. A voiceless, B voiced, and C doesn't have anything to do with vibration, right? It's whisper. And when we talk about different types of voices, the function of vocal cords is very important, right? Their role is very important. So regarding the production of breathy voice, creaky voice, harsh voice, and hoarse voice, you can find what happens inside the larynx. So talking about the breathy voice, vocal cords never close completely, but are in vibration, breathy. Hence, there is a murmuring sound, right? You can understand, right? There is a lot of vibration, breathy voice. And creaky voice results from voicing with slow, regular vibration. So don't think that it is simply a matter of, right, vibrating or not vibrating. There are so many instances in between, right? in between voiceless and voiced, because this vibration thing can happen in various ways. Sometimes this vibration can be very fast. Sometimes it can be quite slow, but still vibrating, right? And depending on the nature of the vibrations, the voice of the person can change, producing creaky, harsh, hoarse voices, right? And harsh voice results from excessive tension in the vocal cords and irregular vibration. Vibration is not regular in harsh, producing harsh kind of voice. And hoarse voice usually results from swelling of the vocal cords, producing irregular vibration and incomplete closure. Right, okay. Now actually my purpose is, sorry, my purpose is not to ask you to be so much detailed, right? I mean, you don't have to remember, try hard to remember each and every fact here. But basically, you have to have an understanding about how the larynx of basically larynx and specifically the vocal cords and the glottis are contributing to the speech sound production. There are two basic types, production of voiced and voiceless sounds. And apart from that, in situation C, you can find whispered sounds are also there. And to that, you can add different types of voices, like breathy, creaky, harsh, hoarse, likewise, right? How the vocal cords and the glottis and the vibration of the vocal cords can cause different qualities in the voice. That is also an important factor or point you have to keep in your mind, other than simply talking about production of voiced and voiceless sounds. Okay, right. Well, I hope you got some idea about that also in this part. And then we are talking about the production of speech sounds in common, still in common, right? So then when we talk about the speech sounds, we need to think about loudness and pitch as well, right? These are some qualities of the speech sounds, loudness and pitch. And that is the end of this section. So you can pay your attention to understand what you mean by loudness. Loudness, that is related to the pressure. So I will simply explain these two terms, okay? Loudness and pitch, because remember, they are also important properties or qualities you can associate with the human speech sounds. Just like being oral or nasal, or being voiced or voiceless, loudness and pitch, right? So you need to know what you mean by loudness here. So what is loudness then? It is related to the pressure and volume of air expelled, right? Pressure and volume. Now, you know, we produce speech sounds using the expelled air or exhaled air. So then loudness of our voice means, or loudness of a speech sound means, we expel or exhale the airstream with a big pressure and a considerable volume of air. If it is so, if there is a big pressure and a big volume of air, then we say the sound is loud. Okay, the sound is loud. The sound becomes loud. If there is lower pressure and considerably low volume of air, then our speech sound will not be that loud. Now, you know, the loudness is a property of the voice of a person also. Property means characteristic, right? There are people whose voices are anyway loud. And there are people whose voices are not very loud. So biologically, their airstreams, right, are designed to either to be pushed with high pressure or big volume, or on the other hand, low pressure and less volume of air. Depending on that factor, the loudness of the voice is also decided, right? And then the other one is pitch. When we talk about the quality of a sound, we need to talk about pitch as well, right? What is pitch then? It is a consequence of the frequency of the sound wave emitted. Emitted means produced. Frequency. Now, when we talk about the frequency, actually frequency of the vibrations, right? Frequency of the vibration of the sound waves. Every person has a natural frequency and range. So, men's voices tend to have a lower pitch than women's due to the larger size of their vocal cords, which vibrate more slowly. Okay, now you need to understand here, pitch is associated with the vibration of the vocal cords. Actually, pitch means the frequency of the vibration of the vocal cords, right? So, if our vocal cords are vibrating at a high frequency, we say we have high pitch. And if our vocal cords are vibrating at a lower frequency level, we have low pitch. Again, men's voices and women's voices you can get as examples, right? Men's voices, they have low frequency. So comparatively, they have low pitch. Whereas female voices, they have high frequency in the vibration of, because their vocal cords are vibrating at a faster level. So high frequency. And as a result, they have high pitch. That is the given here in this part, right? Okay, so you can go through this part and be clearer of what I discussed there. Hope I don't have to read these lines. Pitch can be modulated by altering the tension on the vocal cords and changing their length, right? So pitch decreases when the vocal cords are elongated and tense, and increases when they are relaxed and hence shorter. So actually this description is supporting to the men and women voice differences. Men's voice men's voices have low pitch and women's voices have high pitch, because of these physical the differences of the vocal cords, right? Men's vocal cords are larger and the lengthy. So pitch decreases when the vocal cords are elongated, means dragged, and lengthened and tense. And pitch increases when the vocal cords are not that large or lengthened, relaxed and shorter. So men's vocal cords are lengthier than women's vocal cords. So that is why men have a low pitch, whereas women have high pitch. So that is to do with the pitch matter. So have some idea about loudness and pitch when you talk about the sound production. Actually, loudness and pitch are directly related to the voice, right? Voice of a person, and also to the whatever the sound produced by a human being, right? We can associate loudness and pitch. All right then. Well, so this is the end of the note I have earlier sent to you, right? Okay, so I'm going to move on to the next part as well. Before I move into the next one, may I know whether you have anything to talk back of what we were discussing here in this area? These are the areas I was covering, right? First and second areas. And now I'm going to move on to the third area, consonant sounds in detail. Right. So you have anything to get clarified from this? first and second areas? Okay. Give me 1 second. Until I open the next one. Right. Well, I have not sent this part of the note, right? Okay. I will send it to you. But I will start the lesson because these lessons are flowing continuously, right? Yeah. Right. So in this section, I expect to discuss consonant sounds in little bit further, right? In further, in detail, because in the earlier section, I was giving you a basic explanation regarding the production of sounds. But here we would be directly coming to consonant sound discussions. And I will not be taking a long time, but today I will not end this, right? I will not be able to finish, but still I'll be starting. But I want to take less time to talk about consonants as well as vowels, right? Okay, then now the thing is I have not sent this note to you earlier, but it doesn't matter, right? You know about consonants and you know about vowels also. But I'll give you a small reading time because if I start talking about this thing abruptly, you will not get it clearly, right? Consonant sounds, right? So before we come into the classifications, I will give you 1 or 2 minutes, right? Just go through this part and get some idea. Okay. Okay, right. So did you get some idea by reading this part? Was it clear? This part? Yes. I just want to know whether my further explanations are required for you to catch the idea of the introductory part. Do I have to?
Yes, madam, because can't
Yes.
understand clearly.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. So there must be some unfamiliar or difficult kind of words available. Is that so?
Yes.
Okay. Now here actually we are not talking about consonants at the beginning, right? Now this is an approach to our discussion to consonants now, right? So we here start talking about the nature of speech. Because now, always in linguistics, we give the priority to talk about the speech aspect, right? Spoken aspect, not the written aspect. So then speech, what kind of a thing is that? It is a phonetic continuum, right? Phonetic continuum, a continuum in the sense, now, continuum is a kind of line, right? Okay, where are we? Right, like this. This is a kind of continuum now, a kind of line. So just like that, speech is also phonetic continuum, a sound continuum, a continuous, smoothly flowing set of movements. Okay, so now you are listening to me, I'm talking. So when I'm talking, even when you are talking also, it's the same, right? It's like a kind of smooth flow of speech sounds connected to each other. From the beginning of the utterance to the end of the utterance, they are smoothly flowing. Not a set of discrete and isolated movements, right? When we produce some sounds, when we are telling some utterances, we don't do it by, we don't produce sounds one by one separately and have pauses here and there everywhere. No. Discrete or separate or isolated sounds are not produced, right? All the sounds. Now you must have learned about connected speech also. That means in our utterance, all the words are connected to each other, right? The word boundaries are merged, actually linked to each other. So that is how we say we are smoothly producing sounds in an utterance. So utterance is something like that, or speech is something like that, right? But when we think about the educational purpose, when we want to teach and when we want to learn about the nature of the speech sounds, then we have to break this smooth continuous flow into parts, right? Into convenient parts, into parts which are separate segments to segment the speech chain into syllables, right? And to divide these in turn into consonants and vowels, right? So as I told you, for the education purpose, we are going to divide this long continuous utterance into some segments. And these segments are basically syllables or words, right? Inside an utterance, you can find words, and after the word division, you have syllables. And after syllable division, you have consonants and vowels, because consonants and vowels are used to form syllables more than consonants, vowels. So you can find a syllable consisting necessarily of a vowel, and optionally it can have consonant. It may begin or end with the consonant also. Now, can I know whether you have any idea about syllables? Are you familiar? If you don't have any idea about syllabus, this first paragraph may not be very much clear to you. What do you know about syllables? Any idea? What kind of a speech unit is that? Yeah. Anybody talking? I don't hear anyway. Yeah. Syllable is a sound unit, right? It is a sound unit like this. And the compulsory item inside the syllable is a vowel. It is a vowel, right? So you can find vowel is compulsory. Without a vowel sound, we don't have any, we can't identify any syllable there without a vowel sound, right? And sometimes with this vowel, there can be a consonant or no consonant. Sometimes there can be one consonant. Sometimes there can be two consonants or 3, 4 consonants surrounding that vowel sound. Sometimes no consonant at all. But compulsorily, there should be a vowel sound. Such a speech unit we identify as a syllable. Now, for example, pen, P-E-N, pen is a word. And also it is a syllable, right? It is a syllable, pen. Can you say why it is only one syllable?
Only one
Yeah.
vowel sound
Much.
is
Only one vowel, that's right? Only one vowel, and there are 2 consonants also, fine. But one vowel sound, right? And what do you think about a word like this? The thing is, you have to don't go after the spellings too much, right? Read the use the spellings to read the word and recognize the word and pronounce it in your mind, or you can loudly pronounce it, no problem. And what do you think about the syllables? How many syllables are there?
Three
there are
syllable.
three syllables.
We pronounce the word as organize. Organize. Right?
Oh, good, nice.
Yeah,
Three
I didn't
syllables.
write this in phonetic script, but still using the oral sounds, right? Pronunciation, you should be able to identify, right? O, one syllable. Now you can find the initial syllable does not have any consonant, right? Only one vowel sound. Okay, I'll write it in phonetics also, then it will be clear. I'm sorry, writing here is not easy. Give me 1 second, please. I hope you can find out my symbols, right? All right. Okay, so this is the pronunciation. I have written the pronunciation in phonetic script. Now tell me, because now when we write in phonetics, you can easily identify where the vowels are and where the consonants are, right? Then what about your answer? Yeah. What are the syllables there? We have O, one syllable division here, right? One syllable, and then
G.
G, second syllable, nice, third syllable, right? Now, the thing is, you don't have to write any word all the time in phonetics to identify the syllables. But if you can do so, then there are less chances for you to get a wrong number. That's it, right? Okay, so that is the nature of a syllable. There can be consonants or no consonants, right? But compulsorily there should be a vowel sound. Okay, then back to the discussion then okay. So I was telling that for the purpose of studying, we need to break a long utterance, speech utterance into separate units. like words or syllables. And when you think about a syllable, right, inside the syllable, if you break a syllable also into further units, there will be consonants and vowel sounds. As you can see here, first, second, third syllables, first syllable in organize, you have only one vowel sound in the first syllable, whereas in the second syllable, you have consonant and vowel, and the third syllable, you have consonant, vowel, and consonant. Here, I is a diphthong, right? Which anyway we can consider as a vowel there. CV, C. In the first one, V. Second one, CV. And third one, CVC. So you can see inside the syllable, vowels and consonants can occur in various ways, right? Okay. So then our breakdown comes to the level of identification of the consonants and vowels inside a long string of utterance, right? Okay. Then here you have some idea about vowels. Vowel is the nucleus or acoustic high point of a syllable. And it is articulated for a longer time than surrounding consonants. So here you have some tips to differentiate between vowels and consonants. Compared to the production, physical production, usually vowels are quite, we are dragging them. Okay. If you talk about the syllable, inside the syllable, vowel is the nucleus, means it is at the center, most important sound, whereas vowels are there. Sorry, consonants are there, or there can't be any consonant. And when you think about the physical properties of vowels and consonants, vowels are a little bit lengthier than consonant sounds. Okay. We take comparatively longer time to pronounce or to articulate vowel sounds than the consonant sounds there inside the syllable, right? And while vowels tend to continue the airstream, consonants tend to break it. This is another important point which helps you understand the difference, right? One major difference between vowels and consonants. When we use vowels, of course, they tend to continue their stream. Because now, okay, you can simply understand it by checking these two sounds. I will write one vowel sound, right? This is, take this as a vowel. And you can take any consonant you like, okay? Yeah, we'll take pa. Actually, we should pronounce consonants as up. But for the easiness of the discussion, pa, right? So compare a and pa in relation to the airstream function of the airstream. What happens? How does the airstream behave in a and in pa? Any idea? Both are the same. In both situations, airstream works the same. No, right?
Vowel sound take longer time and the consonant sound take shorter time.
That is right. That is right. Because that is a point I earlier made. But now here, I want you to think about the behavior of the airstream. What happens to the airstream inside the vocal tract when you produce a vowel and when you produce a consonant? Discuss vowel and consonant in relation to airstream. Yeah.
When we are pronouncing vowels, the vibration is more than consonant.
That is also correct here, right? All the vowels are voiced, right? The vocal cords vibrate. And when we produce consonants, some consonants, the vocal cords vibrate, and in regarding certain other consonants, they less vibrate. That is also correct. That is also another factor we discussed today. But that is not I am aiming here actually, right? You need to pay your attention to how the airstream flows. Now, airstream is originated inside the lungs, no? When we exhale our air, right? And it is created inside the lungs, it comes upwards, it enters the larynx, okay, fine. And then it passes through the larynx, it goes out of the larynx, enters the mouth. We'll say mouth, okay, without entering the nasal cavity. And inside the mouth, what happens to the airstream when we produce a consonant and when we produce a vowel? That is the question I am asking. Inside the oral tract, not the nasal tract, right? Inside the oral tract, what kind of thing is happening to the airstream when we produce a vowel and a consonant? Same thing is happening, or do you find airstream is behaving differently? There is a big difference, and that is how vowel and consonant differ. I'm not going to give you the point now, right? I'm not going to give you the point. You have to find it. The only problem is I'm meeting you after 7 days, then you definitely must have forgotten, right? You would forget this one. So what to do for that? Would you like to give another answer or try to catch the point before our closing today, before we wind up the lesson? So where is Sumaya? Any idea? No. Others?
The consonants are produced by interfering with the airstream at some point in
Yes.
the vocal tract. Vowels are produced when there is no interference with the airstream, the vocal tract is open.
Okay, wait. When there is what? When there is no? I didn't catch the word you said. Is it interruption? If it
When
is interruption, yes.
Yes.
when we produce the vowel sound,
Hmm.
vowel sound is open. The airstream is open. When we produce the consonant sound, and the airstream is little bit close.
Now, what do you mean by airstream is open and close? What is that idea? I know that you are also telling the same thing, right? Like restriction and not restriction, blocking, right? In simple terms, blocking, right? When we produce vowel sounds, actually this airstream flows very freely. You can feel it when you say this vowel sound on screen. Ah, right? When you say ah, you don't find, right, any speech organ to be disturbing to the airstream. It flows very freely. But when you say per, what has happened there? What has happened to the airstream?
Press.
We block it, restrict it, right? The airstream is blocked at any place. Like regarding per, we block the airstream at the lips. But there are so many other consonants now. So this blockage can happen in various places and in various manners. But whatever, there is a blockage. But when you talk about the vowel sounds, there is no blocking, nothing, no disturbance. The airstream flows very freely. Only thing is the other articulators are shaping this airstream so that we have different vowel sounds. Okay, so that is the basic difference. The main difference between vowel and consonant sounds. And that is the answer to the question I was asking and you were trying find, right? You have come up with the correct point. So anyway, I'm going to discuss this area further into consonant sounds and after that vowel sounds. And I'll send you the note of this, right? So by the time we meet next, you better come with the hard copy so that you will have to write some symbols and some transcription works will be there, right? So please be ready with the hard copy next time of the note I'll be sending. All right, then I have exceeded time also, no issue. If you have any problem, please forward them next day. All right. So I'll wind up today's discussion then with this point. I'll continue from this next day. Okay, see you all of you. Good night, everybody.
Thank you, madam. Good night.
Thank
Good
you,
night,
madam.
miss.
Good night, madam.